Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we are going to be looking into Jharkhand,
Oh, yeah.
which is a state in eastern India.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about this one. I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. Just the name itself is kind of beautiful, right?
Hmm.
Jharkhand.
Hmm.
It means the land of waterfalls and forests from Sanskrit.
Oh, wow.
Jahar means waterfall, and Khand means land.
Okay. So you can kind of get a picture of it already just from the name, huh?
Yeah, waterfalls, forests. That already sounds pretty good to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know what else is interesting about Harkon is that it's kind of a study in contrast, you
Okay.
know? Because it's a pretty new state. It was only formed in November of 2000.
Oh, really? I didn't realize it was that recent.
Yeah, so it was carved out of Bihar.
Okay.
Um, but at the same time, it has this like really, really ancient tribal heritage.
Oh, interesting.
Like the Santhal, Munda, Oran, and Harsa communities have called this land home for centuries, you know? Wow. And their traditions are so strong. It's really incredible. Like they've really managed to preserve so much of their culture over all of this time. And I think that's what makes Charkhan so fascinating.
Yeah, the juxtaposition of the new state with the ancient traditions.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a blend of the old and the new, and I think that makes it a really unique place to learn about and explore.
So before we jump into all of that, though, where is Jharkhand? You said Eastern India. Can you be a little more specific?
Sure, yeah. So it's located in eastern India, and it shares borders with several other states. Like to the north, you have Bihar, to the south, there's Odisha, to the west, you have Chhattisgarh, and to the east is West Bengal. So it's kind of right in the middle of a lot of action.
Okay, yeah, right in the thick of things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it covers like 79,714 square kilometers. So it's a pretty decent size, not small.
So what's the climate like there? What would we expect if we visited?
Well, you'd have to be prepared for a pretty tropical climate. You'd get those hot summers that India is known for. Then you get the monsoons, which are really important for the region.
Yeah.
And then, it cools down a bit in the winters.
Okay, so pretty much what you'd expect from that region of India.
Yeah, pretty much, but it's still, I think, a really beautiful landscape, like varied, from those forests to the waterfalls we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it really does sound stunning just from the name alone. But, looking at these sources, it's pretty clear that Jharkhand is a lot more than just like a pretty place.
Oh, absolutely.
It sounds like it's actually a really, really important part of India's economy.
It is, yeah. In fact, Sharkhand is often called India's mineral treasure.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and when you look at the numbers, it's not hard to see why. Because Sharkhand has something like 40% of India's total mineral resources.
40%, that's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's not just the quantity, it's the variety too. We're talking coal, iron ore, copper, mica, bauxite. They even have uranium.
Wow, so they have a bit of everything, it sounds like.
They really do. And naturally, that kind of abundance has made the state very dependent on mining and the steel industry. It's kind of the backbone of their economy.
Hmm.
They produce a huge amount of the steel that's used all over India.
So it sounds like their economy is very much focused on those industries.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a major industrial hub for the entire country. And, when you look at the specific cities, that becomes even clearer.
Okay, so where are the main centers of all this activity?
So our sources highlight a few key places. First, there's Jamshedpur.
Okay.
Now, the city is special. It was India's first planned industrial city,
Oh, wow.
and it's home to Tata Steel, which is, a huge company.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
So that just shows you how important Jamshedpur is, like, historically, to the whole industrial development of India.
Yeah.
Then you've got Bokaro,
Okay.
and that's where the Bokaro steel plant is, and that's another massive steel
Oh,
plant.
so steel is definitely a major focus for them.
Definitely. And then there's Dhanbad,
Not bad. Okay.
and it's known as the coal capital of India
Wow.
because it's just a massive center for coal mining.
So it's like each city has its own specialty.
Yeah, exactly. And together, they kind of represent this powerful industrial force that Harkand is.
So we've got this picture now of Jharkhand, rich in resources, a powerhouse of industry.
Right.
But, looking through these sources, it's clear that there's a whole other side of the story.
Absolutely.
You can't talk about Jharkhand without talking about the people and their culture.
You're absolutely right. We talked about those tribal communities, the Santhal, Munda, or Anan, Ho, and they make up a really significant portion of the population. And their culture is just so vibrant
Mhm.
I mean, they've held onto their traditions so tightly. It's really inspiring. And you can see it everywhere, from their music, their art, their way of life.
So what are some of the things that really stand out to you about their culture?
Well, one thing that really struck me was their folk dances. They're just world renowned. Like, have you heard of Chow, Santhali, or Paika?
I don't think so.
Well, they're incredible. They're not just like performances, you know? They're deeply connected to their history, their beliefs. Like, their stories are passed down through these dances. And then there's the languages, like Santali, Ho, Mundari. These are languages that are unique to these communities. And the fact that they're still spoken today, it just shows you how strong their cultural identity is.
Yeah, it's like a testament to their resilience.
Exactly.
They've managed to preserve
Yeah.
so much. And I imagine their festivals are a big part of that, right?
Oh, definitely. The festivals are huge in Harkand.
And our sources talk about a few that seem particularly important.
Yeah, there are a few that really stand out. So there's Sarhul,
Got it?
and this is all about celebrating nature. It marks the arrival of spring.
Okay, that's lovely.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, you know, a real connection to the land and the changing seasons. And then there's Karma,
Karma, okay.
which is all about the bond between brothers and sisters.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it's a really heartwarming festival. And then you've got Makar Sankranti and Tusu Parva, which are both harvest festivals.
Okay, so these are very much tied to the rhythms of life, the agricultural cycle.
Exactly. It's like a way of giving thanks for the earth's bounty, you know, celebrating the harvest.
Yeah, I get that. It's interesting, right? Because we've got this picture of Hirkand as this very industrial place. But these festivals, they point to a whole different way of life, a connection to nature, to family, to tradition.
Right. And it's so cool how those two sides coexist.
Yeah. So moving on a little bit,
Yeah.
our sources also talk about Hirkand becoming a bit of an education hub.
It is, yeah. Education is becoming a really big focus in Haircon, and I think that's really exciting. Like, they're realizing that investing in education is investing in the future, you know?
Yeah.
And there are some seriously impressive institutions there. Like, there's IIT ISM Dhanbad, which is one of the top engineering schools in the whole country.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So they're not messing around.
No, they're serious about it. And then there's BIT Mesra, which is in Ranchi, the capital.
Okay.
And that's another really great technical university.
So they're really focusing on the STEM fields, huh?
Yeah, definitely. But they also have IM Ranchi,
Okay, I am.
which is a top management school. So, you know, they're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah, they're really making sure that their students have opportunities, it sounds like.
Exactly. They're investing in the next generation.
So it sounds like if you're interested in mining or steel or, maybe getting a great education, Charkhand has a lot to offer.
It does.
But what if you're just looking to visit,
Oh, well, then you're in for a treat. Karkhand is a beautiful state, and it has some really amazing tourist destinations.
So like what kind of things?
Well, there's Netter Hat.
Okay.
It's known as the Queen of Chotanagpur, and it's this gorgeous hill station.
Okay, a hill station. That sounds nice.
Yeah, it's really peaceful and scenic. Like, you go up there and you just get these incredible views.
So that's one for the nature lovers.
Definitely. But then there's Diogar.
Diogar. Yeah.
And that's a really important pilgrimage site for Hindus. It's home to the Baba Banatha Dam Temple, which is one of the 12 Jyotirlingas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a very holy place for a lot of people.
So we've got natural beauty, religious sites. What else?
Well, if you're into wildlife, you have to check out Hazaribagh National Park.
Okay.
It's home to all sorts of amazing animals, and the landscape is incredible too.
So a bit of everything for everyone.
Yeah, pretty much. And, we can't forget Parisnath Hill.
Okay.
That's a really important pilgrimage site for Jains.
Okay, so another religious site, but for a different religion this time.
Exactly. So it just shows you the diversity of Harkand,
Yeah, it really does.
It's not just one thing.
So we've got nature, religion, industry, education. It's a pretty well-rounded place, it sounds like.
Yeah, it really is. And, when you look at the people who have come from Harkand, it's even more impressive.
Oh, yeah. Our sources mentioned a few notable figures.
Yeah, and they're a pretty diverse group.
Yes.
So first, there's Birsa Munda.
Okay.
Now, he was a freedom fighter and a tribal leader, and he played a really important role in India's struggle for independence. Like, he's a true national hero.
Wow. Okay.
And then there's Mahendra Singh Dhoni.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, the cricketer.
Yeah, he's a legend.
He's from Sharkand.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And then you have Arun Shari,
Okay.
who's a journalist and author, and he's really well respected.
So they've got sporting heroes, political leaders, and intellectuals.
Yeah. I mean, people from Parkend have made their mark in all sorts of different areas.
So it's clearly a state with a rich history and a diverse culture.
Hmm.
But what about the future? Like, what's happening in Arkan today?
Well, it seems like they're really focused on development.
In what ways?
Well, they're investing a lot in education, which we've already talked about, but
Mm.
they're also working on improving healthcare and building better infrastructure.
Okay. So like roads, bridges, that kind of thing.
Exactly. They're also working on things like smart cities, using technology to make their cities more efficient and sustainable.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and they're expanding their railway network too to make it easier to get around and transport goods.
So they're really looking towards the future, it sounds like.
They definitely are. They're not just relying on their resources. They're trying to build a modern, thriving state.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's your overall takeaway from all of this? What's the main thing that you'll remember about Sharkand?
I think it's the contrast, honestly.
Spicy content.
Yeah, like how you have this ancient tribal culture that's so strong and vibrant existing alongside this modern industrial powerhouse.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, you have this push towards development and progress.
Yeah, it's a unique blend, that's for sure.
It is, and I think that's what makes Jharkhand so important to India. Like, it's the symbol of the country's past, present, and future all wrapped up in one.
Yeah, it's a fascinating place, and it leaves you with a lot to think about.
It does.
And on that note, here's a final thought for everyone listening. We've talked a lot about the different sides of Jharkhand. We've talked about the ancient traditions and the modern development, but how do those two things actually interact? Like, how does a region with such deep cultural roots navigate the challenges and the opportunities of the 21st century? It's a question that goes way beyond just Jharkhand, really. It's something that we're all grappling with in some way. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.